Alright guys, today we're going to go ahead and cover all the possible free agents, where they're going to sign. And also guys, I'm going to make this video, same kind of concept next couple of days, just going ahead and covering all these players and the updates and stuff like that, so you guys are up to date on where players are signing and where players are heading. Now I'm making this before free agency starts, and the main reason why I'm doing that is because I want to go ahead and cover this before free agency starts, show you guys all where players are landing, and then tomorrow I'll cover after free agency starts and all the stuff that happened. So again, just like an update series guys for free agency. Now let's get started right away. The question of the day is going to be, who do you want your team to sign? And following up that question is going to be, who is your favorite signing so far in the NFL? My favorite signing is going to be Green Bay Packers getting Jimmy Graham. I thought that was kind of an interesting signing. Also, guys, we have comment of the day coming in right here from Pirate Kush, who said Casey Hayward answering my question, who had the most interceptions in the 2016 and 2017 season, and that's going to be Casey Hayward. Guys, we have a like goal for this video of 12 likes. Make sure you slap that like button if you want to go ahead and help us crush our like goal. You guys always find a way to crush the like goal. So starting off right away, guys, we already knew Jimmy G was going ahead and signing a 5-year deal for under $37.5 million to San Francisco. We have Kirk Cousins, who's actually going to go ahead and be going to Minnesota for a 3-year deal for $86 million. Drew Brees is going to stay a New Orleans Saint with a 2-year deal for $50 million. But I have heard there's a lot of things in there that's going to make sure, the Saints don't get fluffed over if he does get hurt and retires. Case Keenum, 2-year deal for $36 million to Denver, which I still think they're going to draft a quarterback in the top 5 pick, just so they can go ahead and have more than just him and Paxton Lynch. Sam Bradford went to Arizona for 1 year for $20 million. Josh McCown is going to be a Jet again for $10 million. Teddy Bridgewater is going to the New York Jets for a 1-year deal. The money has not been released. Mike Glennon signed a 1-year deal, signed a deal with Arizona, undisclosed. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going back to Tampa Bay for $3.3 million for 1 year. Le'Veon Bell franchise tag by Pittsburgh. Dion Lewis signed 4-year, $20 million deal with Tennessee. Now, the kind of interesting thing about this, and when it comes to Le'Veon Bell, is I don't know what they're going to end up doing with him. I feel like they're going to franchise tag him this year, and they're going to let him walk next year. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people say that, and I want to stay away from that, because I'm like, no way they're going to get rid of Le'Veon Bell, but it's always possible. Isaiah Crowell, 3-year deal with the Jets. Jonathan Stewart, 2-year deal, $6.9 million deal with the Giants. Chris Ivory, 2-year deal, $5.5 deal with Buffalo. Brandon Bolden went back to the Patriots for 1-year deal for $880K. Anthony Sherman re-signed an undisclosed deal with KC. Jarvis Landry obviously got traded to Cleveland, but his franchise tag is $15.982 million. Allen Robinson signed a 3-year deal, $42 million deal with Chicago. Sammy Watkins signed a 3-year, $48 million deal with KC. Marquise Lee signed a 4-year, $38 million deal with Jacksonville. Paul Richardson, a 5-year deal, $40 million with Washington. John Brown signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with Baltimore. Albert Wilson signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with Miami. Dante Moncrief, a 1-year, $9.6 million deal with Jacksonville. Danny Amendola signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with Miami. Taylor Gabriel signed a 4-year deal with Chicago. Ryan Grant, which took me a little bit to figure out which Ryan Grant this was. This is not the 35-year-old man. This is a 27-year-old man who was on the Redskins last year. You look up Ryan Grant, you find 2 different people. Signed a 4-year, $29 million deal with Baltimore and $10 million guaranteed. Doesn't say it here, but I looked at the contract. I am a Ravens fan, guys. I'm a Ravens fan. I did look at the contracts for both of these guys. $10 million guaranteed. So, Jimmy Graham signed a 3-year deal with Green Bay. Trey Burton signed a 4-year deal, $32 million deal with Chicago. Derek Carrier signed a 3-year deal with Oakland. Chris Hubbard signed a 5-year deal, $37.5 million deal with Cleveland. Henderson signed a 1-year, $4 million deal with Houston. Gary Gilliam signed a 2-year deal, re-signed a 2-year deal, $8 million with San Francisco. Don Stevenson signed a 1-year deal, $2.5 million deal with Cleveland. Austin re-signed 1 year with Atlanta. Bobby Hart signed a 1 year, is this literally $1,050,000? No, that's $5,000. $1,005,000 with Cincinnati. And I guarantee you guys, I promise you, that $5,000 was a deal breaker. Bradley Sewell signed a 2-year deal with Chicago. Andrew Northwell signed a 5-year deal, $66.5 million deal with Jacksonville. Weston Richburg signed a 5-year deal with San Francisco. James Hurst signed a 4-year, $17.5 million deal with Baltimore. I believe it was $8 million guaranteed. Wasn't even a starter, Ravens. Ravens have really taken me off the sauce, guys. Wasn't even a starter. We get rid of Jensen. We cut Howard. Wasn't even a starter. Daniel Kilgore re-signed a 3-year, $12 million deal with San Francisco. John Greco signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with New York. Let's go ahead and look at the defense. DeMarcus Lawrence got a re-signed, well, he got franchise tagged. $17.143 million for 1 year, so he got franchise tagged. Ezekiel Ansah got franchise tagged. Damian Kennard signed a 3-year, $18.75 million deal with Detroit. Sam Achos re-signed a 2-year deal with Chicago. Chris Smith signed a 3-year, $14 million deal with Cleveland. Marsh re-signed a 2-year deal, $7.7 million deal with San Francisco. George Johnson re-signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Saints. And again, the $5,000 is in there. Someone tell me how to pronounce this man's name down below. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, tell me how to pronounce his name. I know he wasn't on the Bills, but he's now on the Bills. So if you're a Bills fan and you want to look up his name, tell me how to say his name. They signed a 1-year deal with Buffalo. Muhammad Wilkerson signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with Green Bay. Star Lutete signed a 5-year deal with Buffalo. Kyle Williams re-signed a 1-year, $6 million deal with Buffalo. Haloti Ngata signed a 1-year with Philadelphia. Chris Baker signed a 1-year, $2.45 million deal with Cincinnati. Justin Ellis re-signed a 3-year, $15 million deal with Oakland. Brent Urban went ahead and went to the Ravens for a 1-year, $1.1 million deal. Avery Williamson signed an undisclosed deal with New York. Anthony Hitchens signed a multi-year deal with KC. Paul Pulaski announced his retirement yesterday. Mason Foster re-signed a 2-year deal, $4 million deal with Washington. Christian Jones signed a 2-year, $7.75 million deal with Detroit. Josh Bynes re-signed a 1-year deal with Arizona. Corey Nelson signed a 1-year, $2.5 million deal with Philadelphia. Mark re-signed a 1-year deal with New York. And now getting into the cornerbacks, which we have a lot of signings. Jermaine Johnson is going to be a Jet. Kyle Fuller was transition tagged by Chicago. Richard Sherman signed a 3-year deal, $39 million with San Francisco, which was a very controversial deal. He actually represented himself, did not use an agent, and there's a lot of incentives in that contract. But if he stays healthy and plays every single game and goes to the Pro Bowl, he will make a lot of money. Aaron Cobbin signed a 4-year deal with Houston. Malcolm Butler signed a 5-year, $61 million deal with Tennessee. Prince Amukamara re-signed a 3-year, $27 million deal with Chicago. Bashard Breeman signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with Carolina. Vontae Davis signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with Buffalo. Brent Grimes re-signed a 1-year, $7 million deal with Tampa Bay. Nevin Lawson re-signed a 2-year, $9.2 million deal with Detroit. Nicole Roby Coleman, I don't know why it took me a long time to say that name, re-signed a 3-year deal, $15.75 million deal with LA. Sam Shields signed a 1-year deal with LA. Damian Aronson signed a 1-year, $2.25 million deal with KC. Wilson re-signed a 1-year deal with Atlanta. Leon McFadden signed a 1 year. We signed a 1 year deal with Atlanta. Safeties franchise tag by LA. LaMarcus Joyner. Kurt Coleman signed a 3 year deal, $18 million with the Saints. Tavon Wilson, we signed 2 years, $7 million deal with Detroit. Bradley McDonald, we signed a 3 years, $13.95 deal with Seattle. Raphael Bush, we signed a 2 year, $4.5 million deal with Buffalo. Nate Elmer, we signed a 2 year deal with New England. Walt Aikens, we signed a 2 year deal with Miami. Punters, Shane Lecter we signed a 1 year deal with $2 million with Houston. Ryan Suckup, we signed a 5 year deal, $20 million deal with Tennessee. Cody Parkley signed an undisclosed deal with Chicago. Dustin Hopkins got re-signed. Gano got re-signed. Adam Vinatieri got re-signed. Matt Bryant got re-signed. And that is going to go ahead and wrap us up for all the players. We have some players who have some, tenders put on them, obviously. But this is just honestly crazy, guys. Like, whew. So much stuff going on, and this is just the beginning of it, guys. Again, I'll make update videos of all this stuff and everything that happens throughout the next couple of days because we have so many players who are going to be signing. Today at 4 p.m. we will have free agency open up, and this is when stuff is going to really start going crazy, and players are actually going to be going places, and we're going to see some really crazy stuff, guys. Next year, this is when next year starts. Today. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe button. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.